They mocked their son's black wife, but she ended their fortune with a $2 billion move. At a lavish dinner table filled with crystal glasses and laughter, a young black woman stood frozen. Behind her, polished smiles hid prejudice, and soft laughter cut through her dignity like knives. She held her phone tightly, hearing news that would soon shift the balance of power in that very room. Moments ago, her husband's family had mocked her accent, her background, her skin, disguising cruelty with elegance. They believed she didn't belong in their billion-dollar world. But what they didn't know was that she was the reason their empire existed. And with one phone call, the woman they laughed at would erase everything they thought they owned, not out of vengeance, but justice. Ava Williams had learned early that silence often held more power than words. Born and raised in Atlanta, she had faced racism in subtle glances, quiet exclusions, and polite dismissals all her life. But she never let it define her. She worked her way through business school, later becoming a financial strategist for one of the world's largest investment firms. Her work was clean, precise, and brilliant, enough to catch the attention of a rising corporate heir named Ethan Crawford. Their love was genuine, quiet and authentic, but his family saw only color, not character. The Crawfords were old money, a dynasty rooted in prestige and arrogance. When Ethan married Ava, his family hid their disdain behind brittle smiles. They tolerated her presence for the sake of reputation, but made sure she felt like an outsider. That night, in their glass-walled mansion overlooking the city, they gathered to celebrate a new deal. This $2 billion partnership would expand their legacy. The air was thick with self-importance. Ava, dressed in elegance, stood among them, polite but detached. Their laughter occasionally turned her way, wrapped in false charm. She felt their eyes measuring her every gesture, every word. Yet she smiled faintly, holding her composure. She didn't know whether to feel anger or pity. But when her phone buzzed, and she saw the name flashing on the screen, she felt a quiet storm brewing inside her chest. Because that call wasn't just personal, it was business. And in business, Ava never missed her mark. The Crawford's company, Crawford Global Holdings, was known for its immaculate reputation, a titan in real estate and private equity. Yet behind the marble floors and silk ties were secrets of exploitation, discrimination, and arrogance. Their empire stood not on ethics, but entitlement. For months, Ava had been working silently, managing a high-profile portfolio for an international investor group. Her firm had been in talks to merge with one of the biggest real estate conglomerates in the U.S. That conglomerate, ironically, was Crawford Global. Her own in-laws had no idea that the faceless executive behind the other side of the negotiations was the same woman they pitied at family dinners. They had spent weeks laughing at her lack of high society manners, not knowing she controlled the fate of their billion-dollar deal. That evening, while their laughter echoed through the chandelier-lit room, her phone rang again, this time from her firm's chairman. His voice was calm but clear. The board has decided. The merger will not proceed. The Crawfords' discriminatory history has surfaced in our audit. We're pulling out. Ava looked up, her expression unreadable. Around her, the family cheered with champagne, celebrating a deal they didn't yet realize was gone. Their arrogance blinded them. Inside, Ava felt the heavy irony. The empire that had treated her like an outsider was about to collapse, not because she sought revenge, but because truth had a way of catching up. As the news rippled quietly through the financial sector, within hours the Crawford stock began to fall. Investors panicked. The deal's collapse leaked into the media, headlines screaming about ethical discrepancies and diversity violations. The world watched as the perfect family image crumbled in real time. But Ava stayed silent. She didn't need to expose them. Their own actions had done it for her. The following morning, the laughter was gone. Reporters flooded the Crawford mansion's gates. Their phones buzzed endlessly with calls from shareholders and board members. Ethan's mother, who had once told friends Ava wasn't quite their type, now sat frozen, watching her life's work disintegrate across financial channels. The $2 billion deal that was meant to secure their future had vanished overnight. Their reputation, once spotless, was now marred by allegations of systemic bias and unethical conduct. Behind the chaos, one truth began to emerge. The anonymous investor who had pulled the plug was none other than Ava Williams. She hadn't just withdrawn the deal, she had redirected it, investing the same capital into minority-led businesses across the country. The move sent shockwaves through Wall Street, a bold statement from a woman the elite had mocked. When Ava finally faced the Crawfords again, she didn't speak a word. She didn't need to. Her silence carried more weight than their apologies ever could. The same people who had once laughed behind her back now looked at her with disbelief and fear. The woman they dismissed as unfit for their circle had not only outsmarted them, but had redefined what power truly meant. It wasn't about money or prestige. It was about integrity, resilience, and justice. As she left the mansion, reporters' flashes followed her like a coronation. Ava didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She simply walked away, the quiet storm that had cleansed an empire. Months later, the Crawfords' name became synonymous with downfall. Their empire dissolved, their assets sold, their influence gone. Ava, meanwhile, became a symbol of strength across the business world. She launched a foundation supporting women of color in corporate leadership, helping others rise in spaces that once excluded her. When asked about the Crawfords in an interview, she simply said, "Sometimes silence is the loudest response." Her story became more than a tale of revenge. It was a story of dignity. It reminded the world that racism hides behind polite smiles and expensive suits, but it cannot survive truth, persistence, and self-respect. The dinner table where she was once mocked had become a lesson for an entire generation. Never underestimate the one you choose to belittle, because power isn't inherited. It's earned by those who rise above hate and choose purpose over pride. As the narrator's voice fades, the screen lingers on one question. How many empires have fallen because they forgot to respect the people who built them?